let's get started. Our attendees are waiting for us. Sorry again for the delay. But let me introduce you to Kevin, Aimee, and Eligeo. I myself am Sonia. I'm the marketing manager at Eligeo, and we host webinar series every Wednesday, and where we tackle a new idea, a new feature, or a new product to help you better manage your business. Today, we're going to talk about Monday.com and integrations and everything that world of integrations opens up for you. Before I let Kevin and Aimee jump right in, just a few housekeeping items that this session is being recorded, and it can be made available to you either on our YouTube channel or on demand. And if you're interested in our webinar series, you can check out our new events that are added on our website at eligeo.com/events. With that being said, Kevin and Aimee, take it away.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Sonia. So today, Aimee and I will be discussing integrations with Monday.com. As you know, Monday.com is very versatile in the sense where you can use it as a project management tool, a work OS, a CRM, and the list really does go on, but there always is those other softwares that your team uses to really complement Monday.com. So we want to make sure that you know all the functionality of these integrations all together. So I have brought Aimee in, who is really an expert in this field, and she'll be walking you through how the built-in integrations really look, and then other integrations that you might not see built in already right to Monday.com, and how you'd be able to actually integrate that, either if it's a third-party system like Zapier, integromat, or even more of a custom solution where it would need some development work, but we'll show you kind of the capabilities behind that and any restrictions that you might see, just to kind of get your thoughts going and seeing how you could really expand your usage of Monday.com altogether. So before we begin, we would like to have a poll just for whoever's in attendance here. So does your team working on Monday.com, do you have any integrations that are currently set up? And the reason why I'm asking is to really pinpoint if there are certain integrations that your teams are using, that we would really be able to pinpoint on some of those just throughout our discussion here today. So please feel free. Sonia, I'm not sure, is this one a poll or a chat? Which one would you prefer for this one? And there we go. Okay.
I just started a poll.
Perfect. Yeah. So the poll would have popped up on your screen. So please, if you are paying attention, please fill that out as much as possible. Okay. We have a couple of responses coming in. So third-party integrations, couple custom automations and boards. Perfect. Okay. Great. Yep, so we are getting some responses. So it looks like there are some integrations that are already set up on your accounts, which is great to see. So we're really hoping that out of this webinar today that you will get some more ideas of what can really be integrated with Monday, and we can really touch on how that would be possible and what the best solution would be for these. So without further ado, we would like to begin with Aimee. I'll let her take the floor a little bit here, but we will be starting with the built-in integrations right with Monday.com.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. It's wonderful that everyone is seemingly already using a tiny bit of automation, which within Monday is, if this happens, do this action. So it's really like a trigger and an action sort of system. But to take that a step further, Monday has a bunch of built-in integrations, which you can access from here on any board in your system. And the list is pretty lengthy. So these are already built in. You don't have to do any work aside from really authorizing the accounts that are connected and then setting up sort of the trigger and the action that you want to happen. So really what's happening is this is an automation where an action in one account will affect, or a trigger in one account will affect an action in another. And some of these are one way. So maybe something happens in Twilio and something will happen in Monday because of that trigger, or something happens in Monday and then an action will happen in Twilio because of that as well. Some of the more popular ones are obviously email options. So if something were to happen in Monday or Gmail, you can have an action automated here. So every time period, if the status is something, send an email to someone. So maybe I have an email column on my board, and I want to, every week, if a status is something, send out an update email to whatever the email address is in that column. And so really the question, or some of the solutions around this, is that it creates this seamless workflow. I don't have to go back and forth between systems. I can just have things happen automatically for me. And it's really a big time saver. One of the really popular ones that Eligeo uses is LinkedIn. So we can make really customized, beautiful LinkedIn posts every week that Sonia puts together. Obviously, communication mediums, so Microsoft Teams and Slack are very popular. Also emailing, so MailChimp. And so a lot of these, you can see there'll be some limitations. If I go into the MailChimp one, I've only got a few options. And Monday and MailChimp have to work together to create these recipes. So it's not just Monday. MailChimp also has to coordinate with Monday so that this is available. And so you've only got these 4 options here. And a lot of these maybe aren't really what you're looking for, or there's a missing piece. That's where the limitations of the Monday integrations come in, is they're amazing and the function of them is wonderful, but maybe there's something more that you want to be able to do. And that's where third-party mediums come in. But there are a handful of integrations in Monday where I wouldn't suggest a third-party medium because they're so functional in Monday and they're very conditional. One of them is the Salesforce integration. I can't actually show it off on here because my demo account is in enterprise, but it is super conditional and it is retroactive. So maybe on Salesforce, I want to pull in all of my contracts from the last 3 months. I can set up a condition for that, and Monday will search my Salesforce account, and all of my contracts from the last 3 months will be mapped and brought into a Monday board. Same thing with Jira. Jira on cloud or Jira on-prem. Maybe there's, I want to bring in certain designs or certain developments, projects from the last 3 months. This is also conditional. And so this is another area where I wouldn't use a third-party system. The built-in Monday integration's pretty phenomenal. But then there are other mediums. MailChimp's a great example where you're super limited and you have to look into an outside source. Something to bring attention to if we've got any technical people on the call. Monday, I would say 4 or 5 months ago, introduced webhooks. And so you can actually create custom webhooks now for your Monday account. That term might be really confusing for you, but basically what a webhook is it's just that. It's sort of like a visual hook that's luring in information by an action. So I can say when an update on an item is posted, send a webhook. And when that webhook is sent, it's going to get that information. So there's multiple actions that are associated with webhooks. It's going to get that, and then I can use a second webhook to say, push that information. So this is really amazing if we've got any technical people on the call. But if this is a little bit over your head, then we've got certain outside mediums that Monday's partnered with, one being Zapier and one being integromat. And I've set up a couple really, really basic examples today to use.
So Aimee, just before you begin with either Zapier or integromat, why do you think Monday.com users would really be looking for like a Salesforce integration with Monday? Would you want to touch on that a little bit?
For sure, yeah. I'm skipping one of my very important points here. So Salesforce is an amazing system. Maybe I've got 10 salespeople using Salesforce, and I've got 15 project managers, product developers using Monday. And I don't want to have licenses on both. That's redundant. It's a hefty cost, especially with Salesforce. So I can save some licenses there. Maybe I need to be aware of upcoming contracts or upcoming projects from Salesforce. Instead of having the sales team need licenses in both, I can just set up an integration, and the sales team doesn't even need to work in Monday. It'll just be like when a new contract comes in, send it to Monday, and then the project team is aware of upcoming contracts, and the sales team just keeps doing sales. So it sort of saves you a little bit of money there. You don't have to have licenses in two places, and you don't have to onboard people to multiple systems.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know another thing too. I know with some of the robust CRMs like Salesforce, but there are a couple others that I find that they lack the reporting features, where I often find that reporting the information in Monday.com, it's a lot more flexible. And you have more flexibility just with the filters and what information that you would actually want to display on a time, just to add to your point there as well.
Yeah, it's slightly easier. Like the charts in Monday are really, really beautiful and a lot easier to operate. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Salesforce, but reporting in Salesforce, it takes a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of know-how, especially if you've got workflow rules in place. And so you can kind of also take away some of those challenges with complex systems like that. And then I guess in the chat, quick question before I jump into the examples, are there specific integrations that anyone is curious about or would like to see? You can just write it in the chat. And I can maybe touch on them if anyone's got a specific idea. Otherwise, I'll just jump right into a couple very basic examples for Zapier and integromat.
Perfect. Yeah, let's jump right in. If anyone does have any requests, we could always address those at the end of the webinar as well.
So there's two mediums that are partnered with Monday.com. One is Zapier and one is integromat. And there's pros and cons of each. I personally prefer integromat. One is because it's more affordable, but also it's a lot more customizable. So there's certain handling mediums in here. I can add a router or can do like multi-level triggers that I can't really use in Zapier. Or if I wanted to use in Zapier, I'd be paying an extreme price. So my personal preference is integromat, but that being said, with Zapier, you get a lot more integrations. So your options, the apps that are connected and partnered with Zapier, again, way more substantial. So pros and cons to each. I would say if anyone's curious about building out their own custom integrations, both of these have free options. Zapier has a free trial that you can use. I think it's like 2 weeks or maybe a month. And then integromat actually has a version that's free forever. It's just a little bit limited. And then after that, I think the basic plan's like $10. And Zapier, their introductory plan, I think is $20 a month. So yeah, both are not super expensive, but something to keep in mind. So I've chose a very entry-level integration trigger action option just to show you what this can do. But I want you to keep in mind as I'm going through this that Zapier can do so much more than what I'm showing. And the same statement is true for integromat. And the more comfortable you get with the system, the more you're going to be able to do within it. So right now I'm just doing if a row is updated in an Excel sheet, and this has to be an online Excel sheet, so just keep that in mind. Like I can't be working in Excel on my desktop because there has to be some sort of connection, right? So this is actually using a webhook, but it's using it without you having to do any code. You have to have zero knowledge of coding. You could just set up a webhook by clicking a few buttons. So right now I say when a row is updated in Microsoft Excel, I want to create an item in Monday. All I have to do is choose my app, connect my account to it, which I've already done. I set up my trigger, which there's just a few fields that I have to fill in, and then I can test it. I've already tested this, and it worked. And then I'm going to set up my action. So trigger an action. Same kind of thing. I'm choosing my Monday account. I want to, what's going to happen. And you can see you can set one of these up in literally a minute once you know what you're doing. This is my Monday account that I'm sending it to. These are my actions. I'm mapping all of the information. from the fields in here to fields in Monday. So where do I want the name to go, the date to go, position, email, and then I'm going to test it. And you'll see this board was blank, but now it just had this item added to it. And that's this item here. So that was done automatically and pretty simply. So I find Zapier slightly more user-friendly, I guess. It's slightly easier to use, but I have run in a few times to an option will be available, but then when you actually try to set it up and use it, it doesn't work. And so you would need to have some sort of tech savvy or coding ability to be able to get it to function. That can be a little bit frustrating, but I only find that happens with more complex apps and more complex software. So if you're using, any sort of Google Medium or Microsoft 365, if you're using really popular marketing mediums, that shouldn't be an issue. It's just, I've had that issue with more like kind of niche, complex softwares. And so that's Zapier. You can do so much with it. And I love it. But then my next favorite thing is Integromat. I've set up a very similar example, but instead I'm using Google Sheets instead. And so same thing. It has to be an online medium. That's not an issue because Google Drive is, inherently cloud-based. But it needs to be an online system for you to be able to set up these integrations. And this is what a scenario looks like in Integromat. So it's super easy to set up, same kind of thing. There would be a blank circle here. I would pick my module. That's what these things are called. So Google Sheets is a module, Monday is a module. And then I would quickly set it up. So I would click add here, have my connection set up, choose what spreadsheet I'm using. I'm using my Integromat example, what sheet I want to use. If it's got headers, the rows with headers. Actually, I realize this is supposed to be one. And so with the free version, which is what I have, this will check for any updates to the sheet every 15 minutes, and I can't have it be more frequently than that. If I move up in tiers, I can get an increased frequency. So the next tier up, it's going to check every 5 minutes. And then the next tier up from that, it's going to check every, I think it's 1 minute. So it's like constantly checking for changes. Right now on this, it'll happen 4 times an hour. It'll look for a change. Any changes noted to any of the rows will be pushed to your Monday board. For some people, that's more than enough. And then on Monday, same kind of thing as with Zapier. I load my modules, pick the board on Monday that I want this to go to. If I have multiple groups on the board, I can choose which group I want it to send to. And then I'm mapping my different information. So I chose, position is going to the position column. Date is going to the start date column. I'm going to add another item here. I left this blank just to show as an example. And I want email to go to the email column. So this is pulling the information from Google Sheets. So what is in the email column or cell in Google Sheets should fill the email column cell on Monday. I hope that makes sense. And then I can just run this. And it should, in theory, push information through to Monday. But I think I need to make a change to this actually, because I tested it yesterday and I haven't changed it since. But it should be pushing this information through to your board. Let's try this again. I don't know if it'll let me because I'm within that 15-minute timeline. Oops. Well, that's fine. Just know that it would push this information, these 2 columns, into here. And it would do that every 15 minutes. So if I were to add a new row in 14 minutes, it would check, and then that new row would be pushed to Monday. So super easy to use. There's a lot of different connections now available for this. So if I, just go into this list here, there's so many different ones. Anyone with beta means that it was added recently. and they're constantly adding new apps to this. So, I mean, my statement at the beginning that Zapier has more is slowly becoming not true, because integromat is really expanding their offerings. And I haven't found something yet that I haven't been able to do.
Perfect. So Aimee, just with our last couple minutes here, if there isn't a module for a particular platform, like say it's a custom ERP system or a warehouse management system, what capabilities or to what extent would a custom integration be able to be done? Just through Monday.
So there's so many options. We have an amazing Monday developer. His name's Gary. We've built quite a few apps already in Monday, just personally for customers to use like yourselves. So as long as the system you're working with has an open API, what is basically being done is we're going to, again, use sort of like webhooks. And so we're going to be grabbing information from the system, pushing it to Monday, and vice versa. That's a super simplified way of explaining it. Obviously, it's more complex than that. But if you have a system and you check Zapier and you check integromat and it doesn't seem like it's going to be able to work, or you want something really custom, like we've built a custom quoting system in Monday for an individual. So they didn't have to purchase an outside quoting system. They could just use Monday for everything. Or, we've had some campaign management done in this. So instead of using a separate event planning or campaign management system, we've just built an app for it in Monday. And so Monday really becomes this like work hub where you can do absolutely everything right in this system. There are obviously a few limitations. Certain columns either can't be used with an integration, like they can't be coded because they're not available to develop with Monday API. Explaining what API is can be challenging, but it's basically a preset ordinance by Monday or by the medium that you're working with that allows you to develop with their system. And there are usually sanctions in that, so I can't use certain pieces from it as I develop. But I can use almost anything. I can create an app as an item view app in here, and we've already got a few available. This would just create a little sort of tab here. I can also create board view apps. So I've got a few different options here. These are all board view apps that other companies have created. Or I can create a dashboard widget app and custom use the dashboard medium. That's great for aggregate data. But then there are like 5 column types that just cannot work with the Monday API. And they are, the creation log can't work. I think mostly because that can't be adjusted. It's when the item was created. Same with the last updated. It's when it was updated last, you can't really adjust that or make changes to it. Progress tracking, we can't use this at all. And then item IDs, again, because this can't be adjusted, it's just unique to the row on Monday. And auto number can't be used as well. Then there are 2 columns where we can use them, but they give us a little bit of grief. One of them is the formula column. This is hard to work with. It's just because Monday's logic around formulas slightly different than like Excel or Google Sheets. I can't do lookups. I can't do certain complex, maybe SQL mediums. And so this formula, I can use it, but only to a certain extent. And this is not mappable at all. So if I want to send data from the formula column, I can't. And the same can be said for the location column. So this uses Google. Monday's partnered with Google Maps, and I can't use Google Maps. I would have to get a license with Google Maps basically to use this location column, or I would have to use another mapping service like Bing to be able to use this and code with this. But beyond those sort of columns, we can customize all of this and put it either in an item view, a board view, a dashboard, and make basically a mini system in your Monday to do what you're looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Aimee. I think we really touched on a lot here on the three different levels of the integration. So I think we'll open up the floor here just for our last couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, or if you don't feel like putting it in the chat as well, you can always reach out to us at hello@eligeo.com with any of your requests. If you are interested in a custom integration, I know that does start with a project assessment. So the first step on your side would be really compiling your requirements, understanding what your team would really be looking for with a custom integration with a different system. And like I mentioned before, if it's an ERP system or a warehouse management system, it would really be mapping out what you would be looking for with that integration. And then we'd be able to really assess your requirements and see how that can be done and really kind of find a solution that would meet the needs of your team system with Monday.com. But it doesn't look like there's any questions coming in. So again, hello@Eligeo. If you do have any questions, feel free to give us a shout. Aimee and I are available as well. You can always reach me at kevin.entmaa@eligeo.com. If you do have questions, I'm more than happy to help any of you out. But other than that, thank you, Aimee, for taking your time today. And I'll let Sonia say some last words for us here.
Well, Kevin, you've done my job. Thank you so much you've already thanked everyone for attending. You're becoming a pro at this. And like Kevin said, we will also be following up with you via email and a phone call this week. So if you do think of any other questions, while you're doing something else, jot them down and bring them up to us. We're always here for you. And just another reminder that we do have webinar events coming up every single Wednesday, where we tackle a new product, a new idea, or a new feature. And if you want to attend and see what those events look like, I implore you to explore our website at eligeo.com/events. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us. We will end the meeting here and have a wonderful day.